Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is Burgandy Bets. We gamble on football and we cash tickets. We got Week 17 to break down. Without any more time, let's get ready to cap some football games. Now, we hope y'all had a lovely Christmas spending it with your family, and if you didn't, fuck them. We got Week 17 football to go through. First game up, the Las Vegas Raiders travel to Lucas Oil Stadium to play the Indianapolis Colts. Line on this game is Indy laying 7.5 at home. Now, Indianapolis has a 96% chance to make the playoffs. They're basically in. The Raiders, they're going to need some help, but they are still in the hunt. Now, with over a touchdown spread in this game, how are we going to attack it? How are we going to make money? Obviously, the first thing you're going to think about, we're just going to hit those JT props, Jonathan Taylor props. They continue to cash over and over. Diving into this game, I know it's early in the week. Once again, folks, take all this with a grain of salt until kickoff with these COVID reports. We just had a record-breaking amount of guys hit the list. I believe it was on Sunday. Here nor there, though, the Raiders have allowed only 80 rush yards per game over their last 3 games. That is worrisome. So when I dove into it, who were their last 3 opponents? Well, one of them was the Steelers. They couldn't run for shit. Denver, they just held to under 20 rushing yards. Their last game that they won, 17-13. And then it was against the Cleveland Browns, where Nick Chubb went over his 93 mark. He's the only one that had any yards on the ground that day. I believe that Jonathan Taylor is matchup proof. I'm not too worried about this 80-yard rush defense per game over the last 3 games for the Las Vegas Raiders. Key things you're going to want to look at here before placing that bet will be Indianapolis had their 4 starting out of 5 linemen either on the COVID list or get injured during that game last week when they went into Arizona and defeated the Cardinals. That's something you want to keep an eye on. You know, JT still went over the century mark in that game even without those guys on the team, but with a set aside of 1 or 2 rushes he had on the ground that he tore apart, it was tough sledding out there. 2-yard gain, 3-yard gain, although he did have a 30-yard gainer, a 20-yard gainer that helped us get to that century mark of over 100 yards. I believe the line's going to drop somewhere around the same spot. JT over under 102, 103 for this game. Before you make that bet, let's just make sure he's going to get his lineman back, particularly a Quentin Nelson, the best offensive lineman in the National Football League, in my opinion. That's something we're going to want to look forward to. Would I lay the 7.5 with Indy? Yes. I'd probably just going to throw him in a teaser as well. Over-under on this game, no real leans. I would lean under just with the fact of Indianapolis, a slower tempo, rushing the ball. And Vegas hasn't been lighting up anyone on the offensive side of the ball. You could see Darren Waller back in this game. If you do not, we're going to look at the Hunter Renfrow receiving props again. Nothing official here yet. Guys, once again, official plays will be in the description of the video. My record's in the description of the video as well, plays throughout the week. Thoughts here, early, recording this early in the week. Once again, you want to make sure the COVID protocols, we get these linemen back for JT. Is Darren Waller out? But thoughts on this game would be Jonathan Taylor over rushing, Hunter Renfrow over receptions. Next game on the slate will be the New York Giants traveling to Soldier Field to play the Chicago Bears. Line on this game is Chicago laying 6 at home with the lowest total of the week sitting at 38 points. Now you're looking, this game for me will be the David Montgomery over. The New York Giants have allowed 135 yards on the ground per game over their last 3 games, and no one likes to run the ball more than the Chicago Bears. I think this is a great spot for your Montgomery props. We don't know who's going to be in at quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Will it be Big Dick Nick Foles out there again? Boy, what a win last week. Anyone who jumped on that Chicago Bears money line at plus 400 after that first DK Metcalf score, congratulations. What a great play. Great way to save the day for some of us. Anyway, back to this game. The Giants, not impressive at all. We'll be looking to fade them for the rest of the year. We only have 2 more weeks to get those bets in, so we'll get them while we can. Thoughts on this game will be David Montgomery over rushing yards. As for a side, I'm going to hop on FanDuel Sportsbook, and I'm going to take the winning 4-way margin. It will be the Chicago Bears to win by 1 to 13 points at plus 135. Why do we like this bet? I feel that this will be a close game. Once again, the lowest total of the week at 38 points. And with Chicago, as long as they don't win by more than 13 points, we improve that minus 110 to a plus 135 price tag. I love these winning 4-way margin bets. You know, when you're getting plus money, you can afford to drop an extra % or 2 on your total win-loss percentage for the week or the year, depending how long you're doing it. Much more upside. I like these Chicago Bears to win by 1 to 13 points, plus 135, and of course, David Montgomery over rushing yards. Next game up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to East Rutherford, New Jersey to play the New York Football Jets. Line on this game is Tampa laying 13.5 on the road with a over-under of 45 points. Tampa's already secured their playoff spot in the division. They're in it. We know New York, they're struggling to see if they're going to have the first overall pick in the draft or the second overall pick in the draft. Something that stood out to me here, even without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, anyone who was on Antonio Brown last week, congratulations. That was probably the easiest bet of the week to make. Receptions, yards, they all cashed. Tom's going to look his way again in this game. Antonio Brown has certain incentives in his contract that he needs to hit to get certain extra millions of dollars in his contract this year. Going against the Jets, I believe Mike Evans has already been ruled out. Chris Godwin, we know, is out. Leonard Fournette is out. It's going to be the same show again. It's going to be the Antonio Brown show. We're going to hit his props in this game. And then something else that stood out to me here was the New York Football Jets have allowed 172 yards on the ground. That's second worst in the National Football League in the last 3 weeks, allowing 172 on the ground. So Ronald Jones, we're going to be hitting his props in this game as well. Ronald Jones over, Antonio Brown receptions yards over. Not sure there's anybody on this New York Jets defense that can match up with Antonio Brown. We saw what he just did to the Carolina Panthers, who had the top passing defense in the National Football League. 10 receptions, 101 yards. I expect the same type of production here from Antonio Brown. We know Tom Brady is chasing that MVP nod, and he's chasing records he wants to set for this year. I don't foresee Tampa Bay taking their foot off the gas in this game. Possibly next week, the last week of the season, we could see them rest more players. I think we're going to see the accumulation here of Tom Brady to Antonio Brown, Rojo on the ground. I think those are two great looks this game. Plays will be Antonio Brown over receptions and receiving yards, and of course, Ronald Jones on the ground rushing, as we just foresee the same thing with the New York Jets. 172 yards on the ground, their last 3 games, each game allowed. These look like nice spots in a Week 17 matchup where Tampa Bay can come up early and then run the ball in that second half. You might have Tom Brady and the boys out by the fourth quarter. Good spots here. Tampa Bay, New York Jets, that's your plays. Now, before we get into the Falcons and the Buffalo Bills, if you're enjoying this video, do me a favor, press that like, subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, takes 2 seconds, and it lets me know to keep making these videos and put out these picks for you guys. Thanks. Let's get into the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills. Buffalo laying 14 points at home here to these Falcons, and boy, it's just been a tough shake for these Falcons here. Almost lost to the Lions last week. There's no one on this Atlanta Falcons team that I can confidently place any player props with anymore. Cordell Patterson really let a lot of people down last week, having his worst game this year against the best matchup he could have had this year. As far as the Buffalo Bills, I'm not really sure what to do here yet. I don't believe Cole Beasley will be back into the lineup as he's on COVID-19 protocols. He is out at least 10 days because he is an unvaccinated player. Gabriel Davis had a great game filling in that slot receiving role. That could be a look in this game. Other than that, we'll see where the Stephon Diggs props drop. Although the Atlanta Falcons do have one of the top corners who no one really knows about him this year because he's playing on the Falcons, and A.J. Terrell. I assume he would be on Stephon Diggs. I'm not really going to touch anything in this game unless the Gabriel Davis props are just so low this week and Cole Beasley does miss again. There's so many other better spots on this slate to attack. But if you really needed to get some extra juice on this game, look at Gabriel Davis again. He will be fulfilling that slot receiver role like he did last week where he had over 10 catches and over 100 yards with Cole Beasley out again. He's filling in that role. Look for Gabriel Davis if you have to have a play on this game. Moving on. Next game up is a showdown in the NFC East as we have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to DC to play the Washington football team. Philadelphia laying 4 points on the road here. Philadelphia currently, after beating the Giants last week, is in that number 7 and final playoff seed, the wild card edition spot. Now, Philadelphia just needs to take care of business here, and they should make it into the playoffs. Washington, we just saw them get their shit pushed in against the Dallas Cowboys on primetime football. What a terrible, terrible showing by this team. Washington is out of the playoff hunt for all intents and purposes. What kind of football team do we see show up here against Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles? This is a divisional matchup. There should be some, fiery, at least in the first quarter, second quarter, maybe into the third quarter if this game stays close. Now we know Miles Sanders is ruled out for this game. He sustained that hand injury last week. Couple interesting things here. The Washington football team are allowing over 150 yards on the ground per game in their last 3 outings. That's not a good combination when you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the number 1 yards before contact in the National Football League on the ground. this should be a Philadelphia smash spot here. Since it's a divisional opponent, the number does seem light at -4. If I'm capping this game, I would have had this Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. I like Philadelphia here. I will be looking at maybe a Boston Scott prop, something like that. Who's going to have the lion's share of the touches out of the backfield in this game, with Washington just exceeding a ton of yards on the ground in their last 3 outings? A couple other things you want to think about in this game. Jalen Hurts, maybe his rushing props. No one on the Washington football team stands out to me besides maybe a Ricky Seals-Jones. If he goes for this game, the tight end for the Washington football team, he has a good rapport with Taylor Heineke, who should be under center again. And Philadelphia is dead last in the National Football League at guarding the tight end. So that's a spot you want to look at there in that game. And you can always look at, once again, that winning 4-way margin. Philadelphia Eagles to win by 1 to 13 points, no more than 13 points, and you're getting a +135 as opposed to laying the 4 and a -110. So those are some spots you want to look at here. Philadelphia 1 to 13 +135, Jalen Hurts props, possibly one of the running backs, whoever's going to get the lion's share. See how the week progresses. Once again, this is an early recording. We're hitting you guys with this on a Tuesday. And Ricky Seals, just because Philadelphia is so bad at guarding the tight end, and he does have a rapport with the quarterbacks in Washington. Moving on. Next game up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The Chiefs are laying 5.5 points on the road here. Line opened up, Chiefs -4. They're catching money. The line's going against them, and I agree with the market move. I think the Chiefs are the spot in this game. The second highest total of the week at 49.5 points. Now, we just saw Joe Burrow have a career day, over 500 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns against the beat-up Baltimore Ravens secondary. More on that later. As far as the Chiefs, man, they've really come into their own here. Patrick Mahomes has won 26 straight games in December. I just think this is a good spot for the Chiefs. With a win here, they secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and they can rest their guys next week. So you imagine they're going to come out here, go for the win, get home field advantage, rest their guys next week, or they don't because they will have that first-round bye as well. That's up to the coaching staff, obviously. As far as Cincinnati, with that win over the Ravens last week, that has moved them into first place in their division. They're going to need another win here to secure this thing. Will it come against the Chiefs? I don't think so. Will they cover this spread? I don't think so. Nothing here. Once again, let's see who gets back for the teams. Is Travis Kelce back off COVID protocols? You assume he will be. The Chiefs, they just look great. I mean, Tyreek Hill didn't even need to be involved in the offense without Travis Kelce there for the Chiefs to still look fantastic. The defense is awesome. Now, that was against a piss-poor, pitiful Pittsburgh Steelers team last week. But the Chiefs have been doing this. They're covering numbers again. This is a team we all wanted them to be when we're backing them with our money. I think this is a good spot for the Chiefs. No initial play here, but obviously you see my lean would be with Kansas City on the road here. I'm trusting in Patrick Mahomes and his coaching staff and this team. Joe Burrow, after a career day, is he on top of the mountain right now? Are we going to see a little bit of a letdown with them number 1 in their division? Probably not, because you have the big bad bully of Kansas City coming to town. This should be a great game. Nothing official at the moment. Lean would be Kansas City. Next game up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. This is very interesting. This is the highest spread of the week, with Jacksonville getting 15.5 points on the road and a lower total at 42 points. This total's 42 points, and Jacksonville is getting 15.5. Jacksonville's getting a third of the total in points already. So that just tells you what everyone thinks is going to happen in this game. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be in a rough shape in this game. This Jacksonville team is just not a good team. They just lost James Robinson now for the season with a torn Achilles in their last game against the Jets. This is just a bad football team. I mean, should they have beaten the Jets last week? Yes. Braxton Berrios had that kickoff return. Zach Wilson had that ridiculous scramble run. But at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence had him. If you guys didn't watch the game, at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence had a moment to have that iconic first-round pick moment. 4th and goal. Game on the line. 1 play to win. Incomplete pass. Wasn't a great ball. I think Trevor should have just ran it in himself. He's a big kid. Just a bad football team right here. Now they're going against one of the best football teams and the best teams, best secondaries, and best coaches in the league, which is why you have a 15.5 point spread here. I'm not touching a 15.5 point spread when a total is only 42 here. The spot you're going to want to look at in this game will be, is Rhamondre Stevenson still out? He was out last week. Damien Harris went off. He should have a bigger prop this week. The Jacksonville Jaguars have allowed 150 yards per game on the ground in their last 3 games. Why do we keep referencing last 3 games? Because it's a closer sample size. What these teams are turning into down the stretch here with only 2 weeks left in the regular season. We're going to be looking at the running backs. I mean, this could be a double-up spot here. This could be Damien Harris over, Rhamondre Stevenson over. If it's only Harris in this game, even better. Let's get all the touches to our man here. This game could very well be over by halftime. Moving on. Next game up, we have probably the most competitive football game of the week, as we have the Miami Dolphins traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans. Miami is getting 3 points on the road here, and we just saw them defeat the Saints on Monday Night Football. Now, a couple of things here from me. I don't think Miami looked great in that game. If it wasn't Ian Book at quarterback and it was Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill, Miami would have lost that football game. The defense came up huge, but they couldn't do much offensively against the New Orleans Saints team. Couple of interesting things here with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, I didn't know this, and this is something to think about and keep in the back of your head moving forward, gambling on this team throughout the rest of this short regular season, end of the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans have the best rushing defense in the National Football League. This team has not allowed has only allowed 100-yard rushing game in total since week 5. And that was to the New England Patriots, who had an accumulated 108 yards. No other team has gotten close. This team stops the run, makes you beat them through the air. Now, it doesn't really affect Miami too much, as they're not a running team. Their running game usually comes through short passes to Jalen Waddle, Parker, Albert Wilson, Isaiah Ford, Gesicki in the passing game. They like the short, high percentage plays, which is why Tua Tagovailoa is leading the National Football League in completion percentage this year at over 80%. The play on this game for me is going to be the Tennessee Titans. I just believe that they have played the tougher teams, have beaten tougher teams. The Miami Dolphins' strength of schedule over teams that they have beaten is not very good at all. You can go back and check it out. It's the Saints last night with Ian Book. It's the New York Jets. It's the Giants. It's the Jaguars. It's the Texans. It's not good football teams. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans are in the ring with juggernauts and keep holding their own, winning football games over great teams. This is just a strength of schedule play here for me. I will take the Tennessee Titans. I would lay the 3 points, but I don't foresee either one of these teams winning by more than 2 touchdowns. So my play, I'm going to take the plus money over at FanDuel. Tennessee Titans winning margin. Tennessee Titans by 1 to 13 points. As long as Tennessee doesn't win by more than 2 touchdowns, we cash that bet, and it's a plus 135 hit. That's my play on this game. Should be a great game to watch. A lot of playoff implications, as Tennessee is trying to hope the Bengals defeat the Chiefs, and then Tennessee can somewhat maybe slide into that home field advantage throughout. Meanwhile, the Dolphins still need to continue to win to secure that last wild card spot. Hey, the Dolphins are a hell of a season for these guys. They started off 1-7 and now have just won all these games in a row. They got a big test this week in Tennessee. See how the game plays out. I'm on the Tennessee side. Next game up, we have the Los Angeles Rams traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Now, once again, recording this on Tuesday. It's so important, guys, before you place these bets. I'm not placing anything until I know who's on the field this week. With all these guys coming in and out with COVID, the Ravens are decimated. They have no one on the back end to defend these wide receivers. It's just a terrible matchup for Baltimore. Baltimore likes to run the football. The LA Rams are very good at stopping you from running the football. Baltimore cannot defend the pass. The LA Rams love to throw the ball. We just saw what Joey B did to the Ravens team. Over 500 yards to the air, 4 touchdowns, and everyone's involved. Jamar Chase is involved, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, all these guys went off for this team. Baltimore just doesn't have anyone out there. Now, hopefully they get 1 or 2 of these corners back, somebody to step up defensive backfield to help defend the pass. I just think this is a big ask right now. I don't care if Lamar's coming back. I don't care if it's Tyler Huntley. I don't care if it's Josh Johnson. I think this line's short. It's just a terrible stylistical matchup. Now, how can that matchup get nullified for the Ravens? This is Baltimore. It is the end of December. If it's fucking 20, 30 mile an hour winds or pouring rain or sleet or something, that would be a great neutralizer. As long as this is fair weather game, I'm going to be on the Rams here. I'll lay the 3.5. I think this is a nice win for them as they continue to extend into the playoffs. And Baltimore, just great team, great coaching, great players. Just injuries caught up with them this year, from training camp to losing their top 2 running backs. Marcus Peterson. The list goes on and on. You already know about it. Baltimore ravaged by injuries. They got third and fourth string guys out there. It's going to be too much if this game is not, in treacherous conditions. This is a Rams smash spot. Rams -3.5. Next game up, we have another divisional matchup as we have the Denver Broncos traveling to SoFi Stadium to play the Chargers. What an ugly game this is. Chargers laying 5.5 points at home here, and the Denver Broncos coming off a loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, in which their ground game could get nothing going whatsoever. The Denver Broncos could not rush for more than 14 yards last week. That is terrible. Lucky for them, the medicine has come. It's the Los Angeles Chargers rush defense, which has been abysmal. They just lost to the Texans as Rex Burkhead ran all over them, and the Texans just made a mockery of a team that should be in the playoffs, which at this point, I'm not sure if they will make it. The Chargers here, Justin Herbert, Brandon Staley. I don't know what's going on with this team, but I'm certainly not backing them with my money. I'm not backing the Denver Broncos. There's no plays making this game, guys. No reason to even talk about it until the Chargers can put on any type of continuity and, performance after performance of what the hell's the word I'm looking for, damn it? Consistency. Until the Chargers can put up any consistency, we can't bet on this team. When they're great, they're great. When they're terrible, they are terrible. Let's keep it moving. Next game up, we have the Houston Texans traveling to San Francisco to play the 49ers. Niners laying 13.5 points at home here in this game, and they should be. I think the line's right on point. We just saw the Texans come off a great win against the Chargers. I'm not putting any stock into that. This 49ers team is a playoff team. They can still make the playoffs here. They're going to win this game. Do they win it by more than 2 touchdowns? Honestly, I think they do. Am I going to bake that bet? Absolutely not. Jimmy G is now out of this game. It will be the Trey Lance show. Very interesting. Tune into this to see how Trey Lance performs. This is the guy that they sent 3 first-round picks for to move up in the draft and get their quarterback. Big, strong kid, mobile. I think a great look on this game will be the Trey Lance rushing props over. Just as soon as that line drops, you have to get it because it's probably going to open in the 30s and it's going to be smashed to the 50s by the next morning. So it's whenever your book's available to you, most books will give you props depending on who you're using. Friday morning, maybe they hold it until Friday night, but the only play in this game that I'll be looking to make would be Trey Lance over rushing props, as he will be starting and playing the entire game here against this Texans team that is just not a good team. They have nothing to play for at this point. They just had a big win last week at home. This is a letdown spot, and the Texans suck. So give me the 49ers here. I think they cover the spread. I'm not going to play the spread. Trey Lance, get the number early because it's only going to rise over rushing. Next game up is one of the most intriguing matchups of the week. It is the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Jerry World to play the Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, after just kicking the teeth in of the Washington football team on primetime last week, are now -5-point favorites at home. Believe it or not, the Arizona Cardinals, after going 7-0, have now lost 3 straight games, and they do not look good. Set aside the loss last week to the Colts. They lost to the Lions before that. This team is just spiraling downward and not at the right time. Week 17, and now with this new Week 18, you want to be hitting your stride. You want to be playing your best ball, as Arizona is certainly playing their worst football right now. There's no help coming over there's no cavalry coming over the hill, as DeAndre Hopkins would not be back until the NFC Championship game, if they were to make it there, which I don't believe they will. This is a tough spot here. The Dallas Cowboys have clinched the NFC East. They're fighting for, seeding right now. See how if they could maybe possibly pop up to that number 1 seed, have home field out. I don't think that happens here. This is a tough game to cap here. But the only lean would be Dallas with the defensive line that Dallas has right now. Micah Parsons, Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. These are 3 elite pass rushers. They're going to get after Kyler. Kyler rushing props is a spot you're going to want to look at in this game. I like Dallas in this game. They're just on fire right now, and it's just a tale of 2 different trajectories. Dallas is going up, and Arizona is going down. I think 5 is a nice number here. I would lay it with Dallas. I will be looking at the Kyler rushing props, as I think he'll be running for his life in this game. Should be a great one to watch. One of the higher totals of the week right now, sitting at 51, and I believe that total is only going to get higher. Let's go on to the next one. Next game up, we have the Carolina Panthers traveling to the Superdome to play the New Orleans Saints. Now, before we bet on this game, we have to make sure as fuck that Ian Book is not the quarterback, and it is a Trevor Siemian or a Taysom Hill off the COVID list and starting in this game. As long as it is either one of those two guys, we will take the Saints and we will lay the points. Now, I also like, obviously, I've been talking about it all day, the alternate winning margin. We're going to take the Saints to win by 1 to 13 points. Carolina does have a good defense. They are a prideful bunch. I believe they'll show up for this game. They're not winning this game as their quarterback play just brings this team down week after week. We see it. It's no surprise. It's not going to be anything different here. As long as it's not Ian Book suiting up for the gold and black, this is a Saints spot. Saints minus 6.5. Saints winning margin by 1 to 13 points. Let's go to the next game. Next game up is we have the Detroit Lions and the Seahawks. Who the fuck cares? Next game, Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. We have the Packers laying 6.5 points at home here as they are taking on one of their division rivals now. Green Bay is fighting for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They are a great football team, and anybody holding Green Bay Super Bowl futures, that's a great look. The one worry with this team is their rushing defense. They can't stop anyone on the ground as the team is giving up hundreds and hundreds of yards every game to opposing backfields. It's not a good look, especially with a Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison duo coming to town. Now, the Minnesota Vikings did defeat the Green Bay Packers earlier this year in Minnesota, so this could be a nice little get-right revenge game for the Green Bay Packers. Just a great team. Is 6.5 a lot? Usually with division matchups, yes. In this game, I'm not so sure. Green Bay can't stop the run. That is a huge worry. Minnesota's going to run the ball. This game could stay tight. I'm going to say it again. Green Bay Packers, 1 to 13 points. They're not blowing out teams. They're not putting their foot on their necks when they have teams down. You just saw it last week against the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield threw 4 interceptions in that game, and Cleveland was on a game-winning drive and lost by 2. Packers almost blew that game, and they had 4 interceptions. I'm not laying the 6.5 here, but I do think the Packers win, and I'll take the plus 135. Green Bay Packers by 1 to 13 points, plus 135. Let's get on to Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football, we have Big Ben Roethlisberger's swan song coming to an end. That's right, the Cleveland Browns travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. This will be Big Ben's last game in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a nice ending for him. The Browns are 3-point favorites on the road in this game. This is a running football team, and Pittsburgh cannot stop the run. Pittsburgh has the worst rush defense in the National Football League right now, allowing 142 yards on the ground per game as a season statistic. However, it's only getting worse down here during the stretch. Over the last 3 games, Pittsburgh has allowed 190 yards a game over the last 3 games. 190 per game over the last 3 games. That's terrible. They just look like a beaten team. I mean, you saw the performance they put on national television in America's Game of the Week against the Chiefs. The Chiefs should have won that game by 45 points. It was ridiculous. They are bad, and it's not a good recipe when you can't stop the run, and you have a run-first team like the Cleveland Browns who are getting guys back from COVID. They're going to have their full assortment of offensive linemen and players in this game. Kareem Hunt could be back in this game. We know Nick Chubb's going to run all over these boys. This is an easy play for me here. It's going to be Nick Chubb over. As long as Kareem Hunt's not in there, I'm not even sure he vultures any carries. Cleveland's fighting right now. They're not out of the playoff picture. Believe it or not, they're going to need a lot of help, but they also need to win out. Nick Chubb over. Cleveland -3. I mean, sorry, Ben, but your team sucks, and you should have retired last year. That's the Week 17 slate, guys. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It takes you 2 seconds to press one button. It means a lot. It lets me know to keep making these videos. Once again, I will have all my official plays in the description of the video below. We're having a good year. Thanks for watching. Let's close out the year strong. Week 17. Let's get paid. Official plays in the description. Hit me up on Twitter. DM me. You got any questions, anything you want to know? At Ron Burgandy 88. It's in the ticker below. Go there. Send me a follow. Shoot me any questions you have on the game. Comment your best plays below. Comment your best plays below. This is a community. We're never going to sell you picks. We're all just trying to make money together. Comment your favorite plays. Like the video. Follow me on Twitter. Any questions you got, I'll DM you back. Thanks. Let's all get paid, guys. Week 17, here we come.